most interesting part about starting a business is when you come from a different place and you're trying to build something in a different country with different people, with different culture. And that's where founders across borders found its sweet spot and to actually take the idea of what is it to build differently, to scale globally, and to connect with people on the platform, connecting them on growth, marketing, principles that shape how we scale companies. We are joined by Mr. George. It's such a pleasure having him over here. He is the co founder of Restart, and he always believes that the most efficient GTM team that you would ever want to build, these are the things that would take you to that place. He's built a seven figure content marketing agency, worked with more than 40 plus leading SaaS companies. And I would say being an investor also has shaped how he led all these companies. It's such a pleasure to have you today, George, with us. It's so much to learn today, I'd say.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
I would love to know when, like we spoke about different areas of growth and you starting restart. So since you've consulted companies like Toggle, ServiceSite, and NordVPN, and so many. So after working with all these giants, how did you actually figure out that, hey, let's build or let's start restart?
So I worked with most of these companies, or with many companies, through Minusia, which was my first agency. And then, just to give you the backstory, my friend John, he suggested we were discussing, doing something together for many years. And then at some point, he was like, "Okay, why don't we do an agency together, right? Because this is a time when many companies question everything they know or used to know about marketing, right? And like how they go to market and so on. And so we thought that this might be a good time to start an agency that serves these companies and helps them with their marketing and growth and like go to market more broadly. Um, and I would say that the lessons or the learnings I got from working with companies through Minusia and the lessons and learnings I get through Restart are entirely different, just because we are in different cycles, right? So we've entered a different cycle that looks different, both for from the standpoint of a service provider, but also from the standpoint of a SaaS company trying to to grow and so on, right? So
Right.
yeah, so I think that one thing that's really underestimated and that we see even with Restart, where the service is somewhat different, is
Yeah.
the obviously the product, how good the product is, and like it may sound detrimental, but you can, like, especially now that the expectations that buyers have, B2B buyers have, are way higher, right? And the bar for building better product is higher with AI and so on. The product is very important, and um, the product also, how good the product is also permeates in like different things like pricing, the offer you have, and these are important because these shape how you as the agency helping these companies can go to market and like create growth opportunities for them, right? um, and so the product becomes prominent. It was always was, but now it's even more so. And then another thing is that through all this like buzz of AI and certain emerging channels like AI search and whatnot, I think that people have shifted their focus from things that worked and work and will continue working, right? Um, what I mean is that the fundamentals are still here, the fundamentals of doing good marketing, right? And like going to market with a message that will resonate with your potential buyers. And so I
Right.
think these two things, product and, not overlooking the fundamentals, are things that we see now, and we see how important they are because, again, there's so much noise right now. It's difficult to see the signal, in all to hear the signal in like all this noise. But it's pretty obvious that, it's how good the product is, your pricing being in place, you have a very good offer, very strong offer that people can't resist. And then, of course, um, believing that the fundamentals still work, because they do, right? Regardless of what all these go to market tools are promising. And obviously many buyers are like fall for that promise, and that's why these companies grow. But yeah, so to sum up, it's product and it's fundamentals, back to fundamentals of marketing and growth.
And when I talk about fundamentals of marketing and growth, and it's more about since you've worked in product based companies and it's SaaS, like B2B SaaS or SaaS. So it's all about product and then entirely shifting to an agency model, wherein it's now a service, like service first. So more on the consulting and service side. So for any business owner, usually what I've seen is a lot of people build agencies first. They run service-based companies, and slowly they pivot either into the coaching side, like having their own offers and an online coaching business, or they also pivot into product side, like we are going to build like an app or something that's in the SaaS or like entirely into tech. So what do you think? I mean, what is your opinion or ideology about these different kind of businesses and you opting for service over product?
Sure. So I think that, one thing that's also underestimated these days is focus, right? So, for example, we are in professional services, right? And there are reasons for that. If you want, I can outline a couple. But the the gist of it is that we are in professional services, and we could be doing all these other things, like, we could launch a
Right.
SaaS, we could, you know like, do all these other things. But
Hmm.
I guess that all these other things would derail us from like our focus, which is, okay, we have a new agency now and we want to grow that. And rest assured, I mean, when you work with companies, you have all sorts of ideas. In fact, we are discussing, SaaS opportunities all
Right.
the time, right? But I guess most of these things stay merely as discussions, or they may end up becoming something that we use internally, right? Because
Yeah.
commercializing something and like monetizing it is a completely different game. That, again, I'm not obviously saying that it can't happen in the future, right? Especially as we see more and more opportunities that could potentially benefit the marketplace. But it's back to focus. It's this thing that last year, for example, I made a mistake of, being involved in many different things, some of which were outside of my zone of genius, right? So what I'm competent at, what I like, what I enjoy, and so on. And um, some of them were ended up being, very cheap lessons, because like I didn't invest as much into them, both in terms of time and resources and whatnot. But the biggest, I think, harm they did was that, like, they derailed my focus, right? Which should not have been shifted towards these things. And I'm thinking about this all the time, especially when you get like some like attention online, and you have like people coming, sending you all these messages, let's do this, let's do that. I get these things all the time, and I always, question, like, all these opportunities, so to speak. I mean, is this aligned with like what I want to achieve, and like both my short term goals and my more long term like the more
Hmm.
long-term vision I have for my like professional career and whatnot. And in most cases the answer is no. So like I think that yes, there are many opportunities. You can approach them in different ways. For example, if you are at that level, you can like angel invest or whatever. But in general, I try to kind of focus on just a few things and try to be the best I can. And even if they fail, at least I know that okay, I gave it my best. It didn't work out, but at least I gave it my best. It's not as if I did that and I did like four other things. The problem is that this stems from some models that people have just because we, access to information and like pretty much everyone's lifestyle is accessible 24/7. And so just because there are entrepreneurs out there who have managed to build successful businesses and own all these businesses and like they are so successful and at doing all these different things, people think that okay, yeah, that's the model, like I will do the same, right? The classic
Right.
thing is I will have a holding company and I will have different companies under that company, and I will not operate any of them. I will just hire CEOs to have this. Sure, I mean you can do that, but do you know how difficult that is? First of all, that's a life's work, right? And second, I mean, don't you think that like that will kind of dilute your focus from like really excelling, becoming really really good at one thing? And so I guess this is how I approach it with all these opportunities and discussions we have, or like opportunities that come my way. I always ask whether this is aligned with what I want to achieve, short term and long term. And if not, like okay, it's a distraction. I'm not going to say yes to that right now.
Wow, I really appreciate the clarity that you have that if this is not something that you're looking at right now, you are not gonna even pick that up or look into it, is because that's going to diversify your focus. And if you're doing like two or three things at a time, you want to be best at it rather than fill your plate with 10 other things and you're not able to accomplish or become good at either one. So when it comes to, like since we talk about marketing, growth, scaling companies, it's so vast. And I mean, so many people have different opinions. And I went through the restart playbook as well, the growth playbook that you've put out. Is like I think you should sell that for $99 at least. And you've given it out for people to like go for free. So what works? I mean, since the advent of AI, where everyone thinks now that 95% of things can be automated. Even like interactions are now like you have AI models doing the first discovery calls or first interviews as well with people when it comes to hiring or general things. So what do you think? I mean, do you think right now one should invest into like hiring agencies or should invest into learning AI, wherein they can learn different tools and like of course time versus cost, if they have that time and they cannot invest to hire someone else, so should like learn tools and do things on their own. I mean, how is the growth playbook changing for everyone now?
First of all, I think that the AI honeymoon for marketing is still going. It hasn't ended yet, right? So people are still under the spell of I will replace my 36 like team members in marketing with like two agents. I'm obviously oversimplifying, but you get the point, right? Um, it's not as if, by the way, we use a lot of AI, right, in the work we do
Yeah.
for clients. It's not as if AI can't help, but AI can also go rogue, right? And especially
Hmm.
if you build like very complex systems and you want to scale these systems up, I can tell you that like many things can go wrong with AI. And
Yeah.
thus I would suggest that don't buy AI courses, or don't fall for that promise of I will teach you how to use AI. You can use AI, or you can learn how to use AI by actually doing the work using it, right? So certainly use it. You should like be uh, at the kind of forefront of all the changes and everything that's been going on, right? Without being obsessed and holding your breath every kind of new release of a new model, because
Right.
the fear of this will replace all of us, right?
Hmm.
So that's that. Now, in terms of hiring agencies vs, I don't know, AI or like people, I think that you have to keep a balance. Um, Obviously, I am biased because I believe in like the big, tremendous value that agencies can bring, right?
Right, of course.
But also agencies can be bad partners at times, right? I think that the right agency can elevate your business, and so um, and at the same time there are many benefits of working with an agency versus expanding your team, right? And you have to keep in mind that this is a time when investors are work closely with people, especially those with operating experience, and they don't like headcount increase and expansion as much as in the previous cycle. Thus,
Right.
uh, you see an increase in like demand for agencies like us, right? At the same time, as I said, like there are many benefits that come with working with agencies. For example, there's no there isn't this like emotional attachment that there is in a relationship with an employee, right? Things
Yeah,
didn't
right,
work
of
out with the
course.
agency, you can just fire the agency, right?
Yeah.
The agency can be your best partner. They fight for you like every day, or at least they should, and they should not take the relationship for granted, right? They
Right.
don't take days off, or if even if they do, like you know, nothing disrupts like their work for you, right? And so I see a lot of value working with agencies, especially in this environment, and especially uh, for companies who want to keep up with all the changes, because um, not to like badmouth obviously in-house people, we work with them, and like we are glad to work with them, but if you want someone who sits at the forefront of the changes in like a particular area or space or whatever, for example, say LinkedIn growth,
Right.
there is a higher chance that you will find that in an agency rather than in your in-house team, just because your in-house team, unless you have a very big expanded team,
Right.
they can't be like real experts in all these different domains, right? And so again, going back to how I started, I think that you need to keep a balance. Should be in-house people, should be agency, should be AI, uh, and just try to get the best of each world, um, without being like negatively biased or predisposed towards one or the other, just because someone said that they had a bad experience with the agency on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, is because there are so many agencies who are actually doing good work and providing results, and at like half the cost. I mean, maybe hiring two people might cost you like 100K, and like agency at like 50 or 60K can take care of four or five things, maybe six things for your business. So I'll say at least like at a 40% cost, like cost cut, you're able to organize or see or manage different areas of your business. So when it comes to like scaling, and like we say that is the lead gen, and everyone has different methods of generating leads. How do you think generating leads has evolved over time? And right now, if someone wants to start, or maybe they are running a business for themselves, what are the best ways to actually have better leads into the system? Like, what is the well, you would say that these are like three easiest ways for anyone to like get leads.
Do you mean from the standpoint of an agency or a SaaS company?
You can discuss both.
Okay, so for the agency, I've seen that in most cases, channels, or in most cases, demand capture, is super expensive, and like doesn't work as well, right? That's not to say that it's not working, but um, it's not working as well as demand generation. And what I mean by that is that there are, many like companies right now, and they are in the market for, a certain solution, right?
Right.
um, in my experience, if you approach these companies, for example, say through Google Ads, that, doesn't bring the best leads, right? That doesn't generate the best leads. At the same time, if there is a company that's in the market for a particular service, and say they saw you in one newsletter, they saw you on LinkedIn, and then they, saw that you do a webinar in a community, with a community that they are like a
A part
member
of.
of, yeah, there is a high chance that when they come to you, they are already like, educated about who you are, what you do. They've positioned you in their minds as someone who knows their stuff, and thus there is a high likelihood that this is a better, lead, and the close rate may be better, and so on, right? So my approach to agency, like growth, has been always to, uh, be out there and try to put all these small fires, so that you can, end up with like a big fire, which is momentum. And
Yeah.
once you have that, you should ride it for as long as you can, because at some point, you know momentum can get you like to a certain stage and point, right?
Right. Right. Right.
um, After that, you need other things that go beyond just like, okay, I'm the hottest, agency in the town right now, and everyone is talking about me, right? So that's how I approach it. That's why we do all these things with content and so on. And this has worked like tremendously well in the past. It's working well now. For example, I published, as we are recording this, I published a post on LinkedIn. I think it was yesterday. I'm Greek, right? Like, I'm from Greece, and so
Right.
I published a post about a map with certain like Greek SaaS companies, right? And tag these companies, and just mention, like, the context is that, yeah, Greek tech is, holding on strong, and like it's
Advance.
growing, and so on. We got a lead from this one post, right? Let alone conversations, and like close to 200 connection requests, and all these other like side things, right? So, anyone who tells you that, yeah, LinkedIn doesn't work, I can prove you that it works. It does work. You just don't know how to do it. And content, it does work, right? It works. So that's on the agency side. um, on the SaaS side, I guess it really depends on like what you sell, whom you sell it to, um, what's the price, right? Like how much people spend with you in their lifetime. I
Right.
think that product-led companies that have relied on um, channels that have been really good for PLG companies, such as organic search, they are a bit frustrated with like how they should be approaching their marketing and growth right now,
Right.
which is fine, just because there is a lot of volatility in this channel, right? Um, and so I would say that for PLG companies, still the best recipe is demand capture, right? And demand generation, but demand generation only when we are talking about high volumes, because by design, PLG equals high volumes. You can't have PLG with, like 3 demos per month, right? Whereas if you sell something, a software as a service for 100K per year, then 3 demos per month, maybe all you need, right? If you have a good close rate, say like 30, close to 30%. So you got one new
Right.
customer, right? I'm oversimplifying, but you get the point. Um, on the other hand, products on the higher end, I would say that um, you need more brand related activities, and like demand generation activities, and so on, right? That's not to say it's not like one or the other, that PLG's demand culture and like um, higher, like products on the higher end are just demand gen. Just like both of them can work really well, but ultimately the SaaS question is um, affected by so many variables, such as I mentioned, like, okay, who is the target audience, and what's the price, and like what's the LTV, and so on, that you have to factor all these things in to be able to tell with certainty that, okay, this is how we should approach our go to market.
I mean, that's quite comprehensive for anyone who just like wants to understand what works, what doesn't. And I definitely believe that LinkedIn as a platform is something if mastered or, like implemented, experimented the right way, it is a way for us to like get leads and like at least understand the flow. What's your opinion on like brands spending tons into like Google Ads and so many SaaS products, spend money on billboards and digital screens. In this digital age, if I mean, I'd say, of course, billboards work if it's a fashion company like Gucci, Prada, or like Macy's. Maybe it works, but for other companies, what do you think? Like guerrilla marketing, or let's say your again billboards and digital screens, are they still relevant, or spending a ton of amount on Google Ads to get leads? What do you think? Or
Look,
like you should go for the organic.
I don't have direct experience with like doing billboard stuff and so on, right? It seems to me that it works better for LinkedIn engagement than it might be working for you know actual like pipeline generation and like revenue generation. But I can speak from experience, so I guess I'm not like really qualified to speak about that. Okay, but having said that, a company like have to try for themselves and see whether this is a channel that can reliably and like affordably drive pipeline and revenue for them. Okay, I think that the growth question in B2B SaaS has turned into somewhat of a conundrum, because some certain channels have matured, like paid, for example, and thus with maturity, the costs have skyrocketed and increased. Other channels, they have big volatility and can't be trusted anymore, as this is our de facto channel for a PLG company such as organic search. And so if you combine all these things, you will understand why marketing teams and go to market teams are so frustrated nowadays, and um, and why in that environment, mediocre marketers will have a very hard time. Good marketers, either in house or in agency, freelancer, consultant, doesn't matter, uh, can really thrive and do way better than before, right? So I guess that where this boils down to, and maybe with that we sort of like came full circle, is that we like this time is not about mediocrity and like doing things that everyone else is doing. It's not about me too marketing and go to market, like we are doing what our competitors are doing. We copy them and they copy us, right? It's about really thinking smart, working really hard, trying stuff all the time, getting uncomfortable, to ultimately discover what works. Because this is not a time when you can take like anything for granted, even for example your product market fit, because you may say that, okay, but we are X for Y audience. Yeah, but in the era of AI, that might not be, like the dynamics of that have been disrupted for many companies, right? And so we shouldn't take things for granted, and we should be on our toes. And that's why I feel very confident for agencies like Restart, that we can really thrive in this environment, because there is so much uncertainty and so much like volatility, um, and companies will always need more growth. I don't think anyone will say, yeah, we don't want to grow anymore. We are
Oh,
good. Yeah, they are not going to be like satisfied with anything. So that's how I see it.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I really appreciate, like, of course, I mean, people are gonna grow and they're going to like live through, and it's never gonna be the case that, hey, this is not gonna work, or like, I mean, of course, we can A/B test the strategies, but the growth would never stop. And with respect to this, you mentioned you come from Greece and you've Greek origin, so. Do you think that since you're European and you work with people in States or you work with people in Dubai or like different kinds of companies, those who are headquartered in different big cities of the world, how much do you think, firstly, the mindset that you have versus the mindset that the companies that you have that differs? And yeah, I mean, I'd love for you to shed some light on that part as well.
Look, for years I thought that I had this mental handicap of I'm different. I mean, my accent is not as good, and like how may that come across, and so on. And I was, I had a fight, inner fight, for years regarding that on that end. I think that now it doesn't really matter because like they can go and see what I do and like what I can do, and uh, or what I've done. And so I think that this is not an issue at this point. Where you are physically matters a lot. Anyone who tells you otherwise are either an outlier. It may be that they come from a wealthy family, they may be you know in a unique situation, or they just don't want to accept the truth. Like where you are physically matters a lot, right? I wouldn't have the same opportunities if I were. And for the record, right now I can practically live wherever I want in any city in the world, right? So this is not a limit for me anymore. But like where you are physically, I would have completely different opportunities, access to opportunity, had I been in, say, New York compared to like a a Greek city, right? um, at the same time, though, someone's journey like shows whether they can be trusted regardless of their location and where they are physically, right? um, Apart from that, the mindset, of, I would say, the Balkan mindset versus the European mindset, because the one problem is that people hear the word Europe and they think that it's one, like, cohesive one thing. It's not.
Right,
I mean,
right, 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 right.
it's not one thing. I can tell you that. Like I was in Amsterdam last week. Yeah, Amsterdam and Greece, they are both European countries. I
Correct.
can tell you that. Like we are night and day, right? And so it's not just
What's
the
like
fact
the
that we have
difference?
many differences. One, the most prominent one, uh, of like the Balkan mindset or the Greek mindset versus, say, the Western European mindset, or the US mindset, is the fact that we are somewhat wired differently. When they think that like anything is possible, and like things are going to go really well, and so on, we are wired, and I'm generalizing, but you get the point, right? We are wired differently. We think that, okay, I need to be on my toes all the time because everything can change. I need to be
Right.
prepared. I need to be ready, and so on, right? And this is a fundamental difference, and it makes all the difference in how you operate as a, like, person who runs a business. I've seen it permeating things like how I treat relationships with clients, and so on. It has served me, but it's also served as a handicap, because when it's all about survival, you prevent yourself from thinking really big, which I think is what we need more of, if anything. Um, and so, yeah.
That's actually interesting, I mean, how you mentioned that, different parts, different areas, and like it's so different, and this changes as well as because if you and I are in a business capacity, I certainly need to know how you operate. I mean, no matter how global you are, if I have access to a few cultural nuances which are very Greek specific, uh, maybe, I mean, so like I figured out for Germans and Finnish people, it's more like business first, and you don't need to develop any relationships. In Mexico, it's like you need to like take 3 hours, build a relationship, and then over a cup of like a glass of wine, you can discuss, hey, with empanadas, what do you want to do? So, how do you do business with people? I mean, what do you treat that's most important? Or you feel that it's a standard way that you close clients or deal with businesses?
No, I don't think that it's standard, but at the same time, even though obviously there are cultural, difference. Also read this book, Culture Map, a couple of years
By
back.
Erin Mayer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I got the title right, but so
It's the culture map, yeah.
yeah, so there are differences. At the same time, I don't want to kind of put people in buckets. I think that at the end of the day, it's like you have to treat people differently on a like on a case by case basis, regardless of their nationality or like cultural background and so on. And especially in a context like this, remote context and so on, you have to make sure that you over communicate, you are very proactive about things, and you are as close as you can be, because you can't be physically close. You are as close as you can be, and really try to you know you can't be good all the time. You have to make sure that people understand like what it is that they are supposed to be doing, and why. The why is always very important, and it should be communicated first. um, and then just like communication, plus, and I have like, unfortunately, I've done that mistake. You have to act fast when you see that something is not working with a certain person and whatnot. You just have to like have the discussion. If you see that, okay, we had a discussion a couple of times, nothing changed, then it's time to move on, right? You shouldn't postpone firing decisions, and you should postpone hiring decisions on the other side, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's quite sensible and thoughtful as well. And I do agree with the fact that you should not postpone firing decision. Sorry, you should like be fast in firing, but postpone like firing is because you need to be very specific with whom you're working. Are there alignment between the two of you or the team? What value do they bring to the table and for the company? So all these questions are very important, and this actually brings us, to an interesting segment that we do. It's called 90 seconds to teach me something. So right now, if I give you 90 seconds, what would you like to teach me?
So what I would like to teach you is that you should not take things as seriously and personally. Nothing is as kind of important as like you see it in that moment. And at the same time, in that like on this in the same context, or in a kind of connected to that, is don't take anything for granted. Anything can happen at any time. So be prepared, and be vigilant, of course. Um, don't have high expectations of people, of like anyone really, and show up every day. And when things go wrong, and they will go wrong, just accept it and just move on, right?
Wow, thank you so much for sharing this. is actually like life advice as well. And sometimes I think we take life so seriously that it really gets difficult for us to think through and like figure things out. So absolutely, it's like a well noted point. And this also brings us to another segment. It's called the 7 questions to fame. So once you're ready, I'll have 7 questions in a rapid fire format and I'll shoot across.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So if you had to recommend someone three growth areas, like do these three things and you would be enhancing your personal brand, what would those three recommendations be?
Uh, write content on LinkedIn, run thought leader ads. If we are talking about the brand, right? Or personal, like personal brand.
Personal brand, yeah.
Okay, so write content on LinkedIn, run thought leader ads, so boost some of the best performing posts, and do YouTube videos.
That's interesting. If you had to change something, if you look back at the things you worked at or the like initiatives that you did, what is one initiative that you felt you invested a lot of time in and you would like to change that?
I invest more than I should in certain people. I shouldn't have done it. It was my mistake, and I should have, let them go earlier and move on.
That's interesting, and I really appreciate you sharing that. The next question would be, what is one advice that changed the way you look through life?
You can't crave something that you haven't experienced, and so the problem is with many of us nowadays that we crave for things that we haven't experienced, like the supercar, or I don't know, the house in Bali and whatnot. Have you experienced it? Like, are you sure that this is what you want to be happy and fulfilled? I don't think so. So experience it first, and then